We're live.
We're back.
We are back.
Oh, we're so back.
So back.
Live and not in studio.
Live and not in studio. Live and in each of our basements.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Well, I'm on my main level, but yeah, same.
So, Alex, how you
Zachary.
been?
Good, man. How you been?
I've been good. So, for the listener, here's the plan for this episode. We're going to do a little kind of a catch-up episode. We're going to kind of give some updates, what we've been up to, what's next, and go over kind of a recap of the last few months and what we've been doing. I think I've decided, it was sort of inadvertent, but I think I decided I like the idea of doing our podcast in seasons. We initially said, we're going to just keep doing this all the time. And then over the summertime, between your doctoring and your voodoo witch doctoring and my training schedule and, making sure that we get our ample 3 to 5 tea times in a week, it's very difficult to find time to record. And we were just lazy about it. And we backed our way into being a seasonal podcast.
Hey.
But you know what? I don't hate it. Some of my favorite podcasts do it that way. So
I mean, honestly, I'm fine with it because, frankly, not much changes like all that often, really, for normal people like us. Like, things change, but it's not like we're making pivotal discoveries every 5 minutes that need to be addressed on this podcast, unless we start having guests every week. And I don't know if people want to listen to us that often. So seasonally, we create the demand and we shorten the supply, and then we give them what they want, but only when we want to give it to them. Economics.
Demand and supply, equilibrium. Yes. Economics.
We're there.
So here's a couple updates for me. One big one that I feel like I can share now, timing is pretty good to share, is I have joined a company called Sports Vision, and it's separate to Max Strength. I am not leaving Max Strength. I'm still staying on as president of Max Strength and head coach there. But Sports Vision is a new sports science technology company. And we are working with computer vision and AI to build a product that's going to use both of those things to do biomechanics and assessments in a much better, more mobile way. So we can use cell phone video to do biomechanics assessments without having to put on the little ping pong balls and getting in a lab. We're trying to put the whole lab right back in your pocket. And so far, we're early, but it's working pretty well. There's some other products out there that are doing a similar thing, but I think that our approach and our execution is going to win out in the end. We're trying to go a little bit more institutional, and I think it's going to be a great product. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's kind of where the future of sports science is going. I think that we're going to start to move away from wearables for a lot of these things, and we're going to move into more optics. As computer vision and AI both improve as a technology, I think you're going to see things like Catapult become obsolete. Are you familiar with Catapult?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for anybody who's listening and may not be, Catapult is a GPS system, and you would put on like a tank top. It looks like a sports bra, and it's like a compression sports bra. And in the back of it, there's a little pocket, and in the pocket, there's a little unit, a little piece of electronic, and it's a GPS unit, and it connects to the satellites, and you put it on the athlete.
It goes into Starlink.
It goes up into the stars, and it does its magic, and it comes back down. And you finish your session, and you plug that into the computer, and it uploads it into the software, and it can tell you how much the athlete moved, how fast they moved, how much ground they covered, how many high effort sprints they did. We did a lot of work with that when I was working football, soccer at CSP. And it's really common, really across all sports to use that, but athletes hate wearing it. It's a pain in the ass. And what you're seeing more and more is computer vision is taking the place of that. They can put cameras up in the top of stadiums or press boxes, and they can just track individual athletes. With camera resolution getting good enough, it can recognize the athletes and know who's who and track them as they run around, and they can do that without them having to wear anything. And I think biomechanics is the next thing, right? So, Driveline's Pulse product is an awesome product, but nobody wants to wear the damn thing. Mm-hmm. And if we can assess those throwing loads using optics, that's a huge plus for throwers. So
I totally agree. The first little tidbits you've shown me have been great, especially when they're. I think the best the best way that we're going to apply it, right, is just that we can take what we're trying to teach somebody and give them quantifiable data and be like, hey, do you see this? Do you see why we say these things? Instead of us just saying, hey, do this better because it's going to yield this result. The ability to quantify things, like objectively quantify things, is one thing that is it's anybody can understand, and when you can put it on a scale. Now granted, the scale's hard to that's always the hard part. All right, so the scale is 0 to 100% relative to what? That's
right.
That's the part that's hard. But if you can have some type of data that shows that you're not moving optimally, in the sense that we can freeze you exactly, with, like you said, the fact that camera resolution is so great now, we can just show you exactly where you're deficient or where you're leaking power and be like, okay, do you see how you hit 98% here for efficiency as far as like joint angle? But then we move forward 3 frames and you can see that you're at like 72%. So then why did that happen? We can just go back and forth and actually use the metrics to do it, versus us being like, okay, do you see this little, you see how you moved your hip early? And it makes our job easy. But then the big thing is going to be able to just, anybody can do it. It's accessible to anyone. That's the big thing, because everybody's wanted to do mocap. No, everyone knows what mocap is in the baseball world. I think like at most levels, sprinters use, everybody uses it because it objectively measures inefficiencies, which is what it is. So to make it accessible to everyone is going to be very nice. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Lifters are going to be using it very soon, I would imagine. It's not going to be long before that.
Yeah, and something I'm excited about the opportunity to try to do is to build prediction models too. Something where, if you aggregate enough data, enough information, you can start to draw correlations and extrapolate causations. So, for example, if you have an athlete where you're like, we really need to get him more depth on his slider. We know what the baseball needs to do in order to do that. But if we can get enough information to try to see what the human body might need to do in order to make the baseball do that thing in a more objective way, because we all have our ideas of it and we
Right.
think we know, right? And we coach guys, and you and I have had a ton of success doing that. But if we can build models that say, based on your arm slot, you could get 400 more spin if you just did exactly this, right? Or velocity too, for that matter. From a scouting perspective, from a development perspective, if you look at a guy's movement and you say, based on our aggregate data, we know that he's probably leaving approximately 5 miles an hour on the table, just based off of his movement inefficiencies.
Yeah.
Right. And if you combine that with a full panel assessment where you're doing strength assessments and tissue quality assessments and things like that, then you can really build a very accurate picture of who that athlete is today and who he could be if he fixed X, Y, and Z. And that helps really, I think, bring a lot of clarity to the development process. And I find it really interesting and intriguing about what that could do with scouting too.
Oh yeah.
I do think that, somebody is going to figure this out. I hope it's us. But I think somebody's going to figure this out, and I think this will be the next Moneyball. I think you're going to see this shift in draft picks and free agent signings a little bit away from looking for finished products and a little bit more for looking for those like diamond in the rough, like this right-hander that throws 89. But they've identified, like, if we can clean up this one thing or these two things, then he's going to be 96 like overnight. And we can get him for pennies on the dollar, and we'll be able to go and get, a Cy Young contender for half the price or a quarter of the price, slot value in a draft. Right. And I know that there's organizations already attempting this for sure, because I went and I dug through the draft a little bit, and there's patterns with certain organizations, and I won't say, because I don't want to blow up their spot. If anybody wants to go digging, they can do their own research. But there's some organizations where all their arms they drafted are suspiciously low velocity. you know, and so you can see different organizations operating off of different theses,
yeah,
off of different theses around scouting and what they're trying to value and how they're trying to predict a guy's development through the minor league system.
I think that's it's something that we've all done for a long time, but it's nice to have quantifiable data to say it versus like looking. A perfect example is, shout out to Mason Winchell. A perfect example is a guy like that. We're like, dude, you could easily throw 93, but you move like hot garbage. Like you sequence so poorly, and then you show him to be able to take him through the data like we did and be like, hey, do you see all the things we've been telling you for 2 years? Okay, does this help? And then we get in a bullpen. I literally, you remember when he texted you about his PR? I literally took him into the bullpen. I was like, do you see this? Okay, do 20 of these drills, and then we'll get hot and get on the mound. And then he hits a PR, because we can show them exactly where the sequence is mistiming. And that's what I think you're 100% correct. If you can, instead of having to have a super trained eye or having had to have watched like we have 30,000 people throw over the course of a decade, like, or 100,000 people throw, like, instead of having to build that data log in your brain and, God willing, keep pieces of it and not let it slip out of your ears, you can just have the data in front of you and be like, okay, do you see?
Yeah.
Now let's
and
work on this.
You can have the most trained coaching eye in the world and build such incredible buy-in. I mean, so a lot of our guys that we train, they hang off our every word almost to a fault. It's not, there's never a lack of buy-in. But it's amazing what happens when you show them the objective data. And you see the same with the Rapsodo. You know, we break the Rapsodo out when we're doing pitch design sessions, and it is so different than standing over an athlete's shoulder and being like, yeah, that moved more. Trust me, bro.
That was good. You
know, like, did that move? Did that sink? Did that break more? Was that better? You know, like, and we can say, look, man, you know, this is, you know, the spin axis is different on that pitch. We know it. We can see it, right? It's right here, you know? And, you know, I've had the pleasure of meeting some new people throughout this whole process. And there's some baseball professionals that, you know, serendipitously have had their kids join our program, and I've chatted with them, and they've talked to me about how big league clubs implement some of this stuff, and how, you know, Rapsodo versus TrackMan versus Hawkeye versus this and that. And, you know, it's fascinating to hear how everybody's perspective differs on all this stuff. You know, calling back to our conversation with Brett DeGagne, you know, we asked him on that podcast, like, you know, do you get pushback from the pitchers about using this stuff too much? And he said, no, it's just the language they speak now.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're looking for it. They know it. They know it as well as we do. And it's the language they speak. They know about seam shifted wake. They know about horizontal break.
They know what stuff plus means. They can go on there and look it all up. Yeah. It's you have to have, it's just like everything, right? Like data matters, 100% matters, but then you have to have the balls to put it into function. You have to be able to bridge the gap. Just because you're collecting data doesn't mean that you're like analyzing it and actually executing upon it.
Yeah.
So then that's where you and I are going to have to get better and better and better and continue to evolve. As we're going to continue to be able to, this part of the chart's going to continue to go up. And then we got to like not let ourselves lag and be like, oh, I can't keep up with all the information that I'm getting. We need to be able to rise to as much as data as we can get. We need to be able to actually put it into the people that we're working with.
Absolutely. And there's so many people out there who are kind of like old head baseball people. And really, this isn't unique to baseball. This is the case with every sport.
Oh, yeah.
But they'll kind of turn their nose up at data driven. And they'll say like, well, you know, you just need to have experience, you know, based on experience. But you know the difference between experience and data? Writing it down. That's the only difference. Mm-hmm. Experience is data. It's just only stored in your brain. And so you're exposing that data to the fallibility of your own memory.
Yeah.
And so, you know, experience is highly important. Experience is vital. You have to build that, but it is subject to the fallibility of the human mind, and it is subject to biases. It's subject to emotion, right? We know memory is not a perfect science. We know that your emotional state in the moment when you experience something is going to skew that memory one way or the other. We also know that the remembering self and the experiencing self they're different people.
Completely.
That's
different
not
people.
the same person. I just recently read the book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, and he's like a famous psychologist. I think he might have passed away, but this book it's like a long book. It took me a long time to get through it, and I just finally finished it. It probably took me better part of a year to kind of, I picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down a bunch of different times. But there was like one sentence that really stood out and like I really remembered. And it was phrased like this. He was talking about the experiencing self and the remembering self and how they're kind of different versions of you. And he said the experiencing self is a stranger to the remembering self. Because the moment you experience something and that moment passes, you are now the remembering self. Like you cannot be the experiencing self in hindsight. You can't remember being the experiencing self. You can only be your remembering self.
Yeah, you remember the experience. You don't experience the experience again. You just remember what it was like while you were doing it. Yeah,
exactly right. Yeah. And memory is fallible, so you can't ever really count on that memory of that experience being perfect. The only thing that is like perfect and pure is the experiencing self, you know? And it made me think of, the whole time I was reading that particular chapter, I was thinking about the movie Memento. Yes. Have you seen Memento?
Yeah.
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 You know, he can't form new memories. He can only, you know, and so he only is his experiencing self. And what a shit show that was, right?
Yeah. I've done that. I did this. Yeah.
So but, good. You know, at the same time, like I think a lot of us, we try to only be the remembering self too, right? Like you don't ever like live in the moment, and you know we make decisions about doing things only based on its memorability. Like, oh, this is a memorable trip, this is a memorable thing, you know, and that's good, I guess, right? Like the high school psychology class that I took, I remember my teacher was like, memory is everything that you are. Because if you can't remember anything, then you don't have anything in your brain, and you're basically, you know, a dog. You know, your dog doesn't remember much. Your dog just experiences things, right? But everything about your sense of self, you know, your identity, everything about your perception of the world is based on memories and experiences. So circling back to my original point, all of that is so important, but it is fallible. And writing it down when it comes to sports and data is very important, because you look back and you go and you look at the actual information objectively, and it's like you can re-experience the closest thing you can get to being that experiencing self again. You can 100%. Re-experience old experiences by pouring through that data, by pouring through that information when you're in a different state. You know, it's that old adage about a man can't enter the same river twice because the river's different and neither is the man. But when you write down data and you track it really efficiently and really well, you can snapshot a moment in time and you can enter that river again as a different man, and you can re-experience that, and you can try to rediscern and reinterpret what you experienced last week, last month, last year. And I think that's insanely valuable. And I think anybody who doesn't buy into that is kind of telling themselves a story. You know,
well, you're living in a world of rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're always in 100%. Totally agree. Couldn't agree more. But I'm excited. I'm excited about that. That'll be good. It's gonna be big for us. What other updates you got for us, Zatri, on your end?
Well, I got this one. I don't know if you're familiar with Integrate Institute.
Sure, I've heard of them.
Yeah, it's this local chiropractic sports rehab clinic. They operate out of Burnsville. Max Strength, we just agreed upon a strategic partnership. Did you like that?
Merger.
I'm dressing it up.
Merger. That's
strategic
nice.
Partnership.
Strategic. That's right. Yep.
In reality, what we did is we remodeled a closet, so Alex and Megan can do some treatment out of our facility at Max Strength once or twice a week. But I'm really excited about that. You know, we did a whole episode on this podcast about how we hate the quality of care that people are getting in our sports community. So, we're doing everything we can to do something about it and make it as accessible as possible for people to get good treatment.
Yeah.
So, we have a satellite clinic inside Max Strength for Integrate Institute. Mm-hmm. So for anybody who's going through pain, going through injury, trying to rehab something, they can see Alex and Megan inside Max Strength.
Yeah, it's exciting. It was, it's been a long time coming. We were headed down this path a while ago. Realistically, it was just a matter of getting a space. That cat is ridiculous. Just a noodle. Look at that thing.
He's liquid.
But it was a long time coming. It was just a matter of time until we had enough space to make it work. And then realistically, it makes sense. I mean, I think you and I are headed for a collision course regardless in the long run. It's just going to happen at some point. This is just the first step. And honestly, it helps. So for us, where we're located, the hardest part about doing what I do for a job, this quick caveat, is that I only can help people when I see them realistically with the way that I treat. I could do a lot more online treatment. I could do a lot more stuff like that, but the telehealth part of it, if I sit down and I talk with you, you don't get the energy of being face to face. It's a completely different thing. Especially when it comes to pain and it comes to injuries, having a conversation with me over a camera, you're not going to get the confidence, or you're not going to get the ability for me to like meet you exactly where you're at, which is going to give you the best result in the long run. So for us, we're located on the south side of the Twin Cities. Max Strength's further north. But the thing is that being just a little bit further north, it's only like 10 miles. Our reach to get with families and to get with players and to get with just be able to help people, we just expanded it by like 400,000 people. Mm-hmm. We become more readily accessible to a much larger amount of, like our density just increased a ton. Plus it just increases the amount of foot traffic for Max Strength and for us. And then the biggest cherry on top is hopefully this reaches like all of our Max Strength guys, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And we can skip the step of where we go, oh yeah, I went to such and such and they said rest 2 weeks. Like mm-hmm. we can get away from that old mantra of like, I went and saw this random person I don't know, who knows nothing about how I train or what I do or what my goals are or who I am as a person. And they just gave me the textbook recommendation based upon what they found on an x-ray or doing some random orthopedic tests that may or may not actually pertain to what's happening. So the idea is to kind of take and get rid of the fluff of that and just be able to, okay, I already know who you are. I know what you do for your training. I know what you've done for the last 2 years. Bring it down right to their level and give it to them in a place that they're already comfortable. These athletes don't have to go to like a doctory office. They can just walk around the corner in a place they've already experienced a bunch of things. They have memories. They're comfortable. They identify. So it's very exciting. Megan and I are super excited. Super excited about it. I think it's great. I think it's great for our players. I think it's great for both of our businesses. It's going to be good. I'm excited.
Yeah. And to add to that, to kind of put a bow on that and really further emphasize your point, something I think that you guys have a huge advantage on, and is why I've always gravitated towards people like you before I met you guys, and why I won't go anywhere else if I run into a problem now, because you have the ability to put your hands on somebody. You have these treatment modalities, manual therapy. You can actually kind of do something about it, right? If I'm experiencing pain, if I run into like some of my neck problems that I'm struggling to take care of myself, it's not like when you go very, very clinical setting, like a big box clinic, a lot of times you're sitting in a doctor's office and it's more like a checkup, and they hear you and then they give you recommendations. All right, here, go do this, right? Or don't do that, right? Like don't throw for 3 weeks or whatever. Whereas if you see someone like you, it's like, come here, and let me get my hands on. Let me get my hands on you. And you have your own 2 hands that you can do a lot of that soft tissue work with that you do. And you also have your shockwave, and you've got your e-stim stuff, and some of those modalities that you don't have to get the runaround and to end up getting. You can just get it all in one place. Like, do you remember when I had that weird oblique strain that I couldn't figure out on my own?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it feels like my rib is coming out. Like, I don't know how to address this.
Mm-hmm.
And you did the dry needle e-stim thing where you put the needles in me and
mm-hmm.
then put the stim on the needles.
Mm-hmm.
Strangest sensation I've ever felt. I mean, I've done everything under the sun except for that up until that point.
Right.
It fixed it like immediately. I couldn't believe it. I was like, all right, I'm probably gonna have to do this twice or 3 times, and I felt better that day. I was amazed, right?
Yeah.
And I walked into your place, asked nicely for some help, and I was better in like a half hour. Whereas there's so much that happens where they're like, I don't know, it's probably a strain, probably a sprain. Maybe take a week off and see how it feels. Like,
right.
And there's just so much more time that passes between initial consultation and actually feeling better.
Yeah. And I mean, this goes back to exactly what you said with the data. Like the hardest part about my job is the objectivity is really not super high. It's very experience based, which is a blessing and a curse. Cause it's like, I've worked on so many different types of bodies and I've been lucky enough to be in this performance sphere for a long time. And I hope I can continue to be in it. But like for someone like you come in like that, I already know your central nervous system is a switch. It's on or off. I know how you train. I know how you move. I know how you respond to pain. Like I can check all of the boxes, and I'm hopefully none of it has leaked out of my ears. Right. I'm keeping a good log of what you do. And then I'm like, well, realistically, it's like one of two things. Either he literally broke his rib doing something and it's creating pain, or it's just something minor. It's something minor that's irritating him. And if we do a couple things, but the one part, I think this is, once again, quick side street. When you look at like what we do, what you and I do, and what we do for people and how we interact with everybody, you could argue that every single interaction you have with somebody is practice. Like no one's perfect at interacting with anybody. It's the same thing when it comes to medicine or helping, like dealing with pain or dealing with injuries. It's called medical practice, not medical perfect. So like you said, the benefit of the way that we do things is that it's a very like, hey, we can try this. Maybe it'll help. If it helps, great. We're on the right track. Okay, let's try that. Give it, a day. Oh, it didn't help. Okay, let's try something different. Let's try something different. And it's like you can continue to pull on the strings of all the different variables until you get the one that actually gets tight. And then you're like, okay, let's keep pulling on that string and climb up to the top of that. And it's that part of it is the biggest benefit for young people who get hurt, because then, like exactly like you said, we're not waiting around and going, maybe it'll work. You can just find out right away if it's going to work or not. And you just skip. And so no, it's going to be fun. I'm really excited. It's going to be great.
Yeah. My other favorite part of that approach is it kind of removes the doctor as an authority figure dynamic that I've never really liked,
I don't think anybody likes that. I hate that. I hate when I don't get the truth.
I'm always surprised though at how people seem to either want it or expect it from the patient side. Like,
right.
They're like, well, the doctor said, and I'm like, look, like you got to remember, he's just a guy,
just a person,
and he might be wrong about it. And then there's some doctors out there that opine about stuff that just aren't areas of their expertise, Like, did I ever tell you about the time I had a teenager come to me and tell me that he told the doctor he was taking creatine at his physical, and the doctor said that creatine will kill you?
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, dude, come on.
Yeah, man, it's bad.
Don't say that to somebody.
Now,
like,
in all
you
fairness,
obviously don't know. Like, just say, I don't know. Like,
in all fairness to doctors, that's just one. That's just not all.
Yeah, just one guy. One guy who was feeling lazy that day and didn't want to explain himself.
It'll kill you. I'm a doctor, I know.
He'll shoot your eye out. Jesus Christ.
Like, what are we doing?
All right, so I think we can do another episode bitching about doctors if we want. We'll
nice. Let's run that back again. Yeah.
All right. What else do you have, Alex? What else you got?
Let's see. That was big news. Us hooking up with you guys. What else have I been up to? We finished this is more of a personal thing, but we finished all our kitchen remodeling stuff. So I have a life again, which is sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, man, my wife Megan got ACL surgery, ACL reconstruction. So she was playing volleyball. She tore her ACL originally a decade ago while she was in college. This is, I wanted to talk about this more so for the fact of like, we talked about her injury on a different podcast. Go back and listen to that. But this is the knowledge is power thing and the mentality is power thing. So when she tore it in college, she looks back at that time. She's like, my life was over. I tuned out. Like, I was distraught. No idea what my future is. Now, as a physical therapist, she tore it and she's like, I'm good with this. Mm-hmm. Like, she's like, I'm going to get better. She started walking 10 days after she had surgery, where I think she didn't walk for like a month after her first one. So we've been dealing with that, but it's one of those things that as you garner experience and new data comes out and you learn about how things are done, it's just, I think this is another learning opportunity for Megan and I. And so it's cool. It's been going well. She's just over 2 weeks in. She's walking, moving around. Bruising's almost gone. The bruising on her leg was bonkers, dude. It was like black.
I believe it.
It was black. It was
and
crazy.
She had a full ACL reconstruction, and then she also had some meniscus repair or removal.
Yep, meniscus on both sides, a lateral meniscus root, tendinosis. They use your IT band and they wrap it into your, and like, so the big thing is Megatron is a powerhouse. So they were like, we need to lock this knee in so that it doesn't happen again because it's the second time. So yeah, they did that. They actually talked about they talked about a surgery now that they usually, so have you ever heard of, do you know how dog ACL surgeries work?
Not real specifically.
Okay. I just learned this. Brand new knowledge to me. They don't actually fix the ACL of a dog.
Okay.
So what they do, I'm going to tell you. So what they do is this is their tibia and then this is their femur, right? So in a human, a very efficient knee, the angle of the tibia is not super high. It's maybe 10, 15 degrees. So if this is the plateau of the tibia, it's maybe like this, 10, 15 degrees. Super slight. Right.
Yeah.
In dogs, it's more like this because of how their top bone comes down, because of how the joint functions, right?
Right.
So then what
they can't like lock out their knee. They're
exactly.
Always, yeah.
So imagine top of the tibia, and the dog's is like this. So what they do is they do what's called an osteotomy. They cut a slice out of the tibia and actually like pincer it down and just level out the joint. So then they don't put an ACL in. They just change the joint mechanics, which is crazy.
They just change the joint mechanics to make it a lot more stable.
Yep. So they threw that around with Megan's because her angles are slightly high. And the surgeon we went and saw, he goes, "Yeah, I'm not going to do the dog surgery on you." He's like, "I don't think it's necessary." And I was laughing. It was so funny. It was so good.
Oh my God.
It was so good. But yeah, other than that, man, no, we've been things have been good. Just running around with their hair on fire, getting things ready at Mac has been big. Yeah, man, that's it. I'm looking forward to the pitching stuff. We're starting the pitching stuff here in like a month, and I'm getting all kinds of fired up about it.
I think one episode that we'll do here in the next few weeks, we'll do like a off-season pitching program preview.
I like it.
So for anybody who cares about pitching development, they can listen to us talk about, our plan for the off-season, how we're, what we're changing from last year, what we felt like we learned, what we feel like we're going to do differently. But I think that can be probably its an entire own episode here. For sure. In the next week or so. Here's something funny. Speaking of dogs, another kind of personal tangent for me. We're fostering a puppy right now.
Ooh. How's that going?
It's better this morning. Better. So we got her yesterday. So today is Friday. We got her Thursday afternoon. The reason why we're doing this is Megan's shelter that she works at. My Megan. For the listener, we're both married to a woman named Megan, so that'll get confusing. The Megans. She works for the animal shelter, and their policy is if a dog bites somebody and it breaks skin, they go on bite quarantine. So bite quarantine basically means they can't be adopted out for like 7 days or 10 days or something, and it's to like watch for any symptoms of disease that the dog may or may not have spread to the person or other animal that it bit. Problem is puppies bite and nip a lot, right? Anybody who's been around a puppy knows they've got
their teeth,
razor sharp teeth.
Razors. Oh.
So it happens a lot with puppies where they're puppy biting and then they break skin because it doesn't take much to actually break skin with those puppy teeth. And then they got to go on bite quarantine. And it's kind of this thing, I think, at the shelter where it's the policy and it's a good policy, but I think everybody kind of knows like it's a puppy. It's not like probably doesn't have rabies, you know? So what they'll usually do is they'll put it in foster, and it's almost always staff that foster animals. And they just bring them home so that they're not sitting in a kennel in the shelter for a week, because it's actually not very good for dogs to sit in that environment for a long period of time. They're trying to get them in and out as much as they can, right? Because it's very, very stressful. You know, think about if you sat in a prison cell and everybody was just screaming and crying, because like that's the dogs like bark and cry and like anyway.
You remember COVID? You remember when people had to stay home from everything? Yeah, super good for your mental health. Yeah, it's great.
For sure. Yeah. Right. And so for one reason or another, like nobody was stepping up to take this puppy. Usually it's like people take puppies right away, and everybody was busy, or, you know, nobody could really take it on. And it only really needed like 4 days, like through the weekend. It's already out for adoption. Like it's already signed up for, like it just has to wait to go out because that's their policy. So we volunteered to foster this puppy, and this stupid little thing is so damn cute, but it's so rambunctious. It's like very confident, and so it's just terrorizing my other 2 large dogs. You know, my other dog's like 10. He's not having it. He's pissed off.
What kind of dog is it? What kind of mix is it?
I think it's like a little pit bull thing. I don't know. Like it looks like a little like mutt.
I love those little pit bull, like the ones where they're like kind of labby, kind of pit bully, but it's mostly pit bull. So they're just like these little like beefy things.
Yeah, and that's kind of what she looks like. She's got a really big head.
Yeah, and they want to just stomp around. Yeah, those are the best.
Yeah. But oh my god, this stupid little dog. Like, you know, like puppies don't really sleep through the night, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we don't have kids, but we were literally doing the thing that parents do last night. Like we heard the puppy crying in the middle of the night, and I'm like slapping Megan, like this dude, you gotta do it this time. And she's like, ugh, you know, gets up, she takes it out, puts it back in the crate. It screams for a little while, falls asleep, you know. And I'm like, you know, part of me when I was like, oh my god, we're gonna get attached to this puppy, but after like 24 hours, I'm like, when is it leaving? Like,
yeah, I don't want a puppy.
You know,
yeah,
it's so adorable, but and she's getting along with Raven really well, because Raven doesn't get to wrestle with Albie because he's 10, you know, and so Raven's fired up about that. But it's so funny how like you think, like you see pictures of puppies and you're like, oh, we could do 3. Like, no, I don't want 3's a crowd.
Dude, 3's a crowd. Even after we lost Callie and we just have Monty, Megan and I are like, nah, we're not doing it. Yeah, and it's like I kind of want a cat, but also at the same time, it's like, do I really want a cat? Like, is a cat really going to make Monty's life any better? Because it's like I don't need a cat. Like me personally, I love cats, but like, I don't need a cat. I got 140 pounds plus a dog that I got to deal with, plus Megatron. You know, there's plenty of limbs. There are plenty of limbs on the couch. Like I don't need it. We don't need any more limbs on the couch when we're laying around. So, and it's like, I don't. But that is those puppies, dude. Oh, it's like
for anybody that doesn't know the Twangies, the Twangies are both north of 6 feet tall, and then they have a 160-pound Great Dane. So it's
really
like
tall.
It's like there's 3 Great Danes in this house. These 2 are human Great Danes.
Oh, giants only.
Great Dane.
Giants only.
You know.
Yeah. I got to tell them this. So the anecdotal story. My wife. We were on a walk and it was like 97 or 98 degrees outside. And the real feel was probably 100 plus. And we're literally walking. It might be a quarter mile, like just over a quarter mile. So just a short walk, 12 minutes. We get around the backside of our walk and we're starting to come back. And I'm just walking at like a normal pace. And Megan and the dog are like probably 15, 20 steps behind me. And I look back and I go, what's wrong with you guys? And they're like, Megan goes, we're tired. I'm like, oh yeah, you giants must be back there just exhausted. And so now I'm essentially, Megan is a pseudo, like you said this, Megan's kind of like Hagrid, like part giant. And then I'm just like the derivative that like hangs around, I'm whatever animal she's keeping. Her and Monty are like their best friends, what was the name? What was the animal that Hagrid like saved? Was it the hippogriff?
A hippogriff, yeah. And it was what was its name? I don't remember its name.
I can't remember.
But it was a hippogriff.
Megan and Monty are together. Megan is Hagrid, Hippogriff is Monty, and then I'm just like whatever spare animals around. That's kind of, you did a good job of nailing that. So yeah, that's my life.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I have any other nuggets of actual value to offer the listener for this return episode. This was kind of purely catching up and a little bit of entertainment, talking data. What do you think, man? Is that the pod? Is that the episode?
Yeah. Give me 2 seconds. There might be one thing that pops into my brain. Oh, I wanted to give a shout out on this podcast. Brock Anderson has been fighting injuries for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. Went back to school, has been sitting 88 to 89 6 in every single bullpen he's thrown. So huge shout out to that young man for like sticking it out, getting it done. That's awesome. I'm excited to see where it goes for him. But that was it. That's all I want.
Yeah. Brock's the model of perseverance. I'm trying to talk him into coaching for us next summer while he's home. He's a great example.
Could you imagine it as a coach? Why are you quitting? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Stop.
You don't have no idea what pain is.
You've never been through anything. Yeah. No, I think that's great. It's good to be back. I'm excited for season 3.
All right.
Until next time, guys. Bye.